reasonable lighting and you can see me, and it's amazing how well you can adjust the imagery on the software I use, but it doesn't look fantastic. I don't know why. I'm allowed to borrow content from other people on YouTube within limited reason and all that stuff, and so I've borrowed a little bit off of this guy. I don't know his name, don't know his channel, just came up in my feed. Some kind of psychologist or maybe psychiatrist, I'm not sure. I don't know the guy. I'll have to look him up and give him some credit on this. I liked him. I thought it was nice. It's good content, and I'll definitely put a link to his channel in the video. I thought it was useful. And his subject was midlife crisis for men, which, when you think about it, being honest, surprising that didn't come up in my YouTube feed earlier, huh? And oddly, as I thought about that this morning, that's one of the few negative things nobody dared, I'm going to say my baggage, I'm going to put that on there, but no one dared say to me. Obviously, that would be the elephant in the room, or the most obvious point anybody could make, or most obvious insult someone could throw at you, and nobody did. I'm sure there was a lot of talk behind my back, but to my face, nobody breathed those words. In hindsight, that's surprising, because I don't think that's that offensive necessarily, but depending on who said it, I would not have necessarily reacted very much to that. But I don't react too much to a whole lot, in all honesty. I'm a pretty even-keeled guy. To the point, I've had several lifelong friends say, "Geez, Rob, how do you always, stay so calm and steady on things?" Because sometimes there's stuff blowing up all around, and you're like, "Okay, steady at the helm," and that's just I'm a forward progress mindset kind of guy. But anyways, what I'm gonna do, or I am gonna do it. I'm gonna put clips of his video in with mine, and I'm going to talk about it. And I've just taken short bites where he really, and he hits on a lot of points. In all fairness, the guy hits a lot of points very cleverly and very poignantly. He's a good speaker, and he's obviously a sharp guy. So I'm going to just put those little points in there, and I'll comment on it a little bit. I just think it's useful and interesting content for guys in our shoes. If you have sold everything and moved to Thailand, one could argue, that you've had a midlife crisis. But what is that, and what does it mean? I guess the benefit is to you. What does that really mean? Why do you care? Would you care? Should you care? And when someone says that, what does that really mean? What does that mean to you? What do you want to think or say back or respond to that, either inside to yourself, which is more important, or what you might say back to them? So to all that, this is kind of helpful content, I think, in all honesty. I enjoyed watching it, and I'm going to enjoy making this video. So let's put him on.
And the topic of today's short talk is why men have midlife crises. So a midlife crisis is generally something that occurs in the late 30s to mid 40s. The archetypal crisis is a man who suddenly divorces his wife, leaves his family, buys a sports car, dates much younger women, and otherwise abandons his responsibilities in favor of an increasingly hedonistic lifestyle.
So I would say there he makes an excellent definition for what people would call the midlife crisis. Let's keep him rolling.
Look different, but they're generally not as common. And I think the reason for that is the factors that tend to produce these crises are, as we'll see, more prevalent among men than they are among women.
And here he makes the first of several really interesting points. Really insightful. He goes multi-level deep on this, but it's easy to follow him. He's very good at explaining things. So anyway, so let's keep running. Okay, here we go.
Midlife crises occur for two primary reasons. First of all, they tend to impact men who have been pro-social, duty-conscious, and responsibility-oriented for most, if not all, of their adult lives. Potentially ever since they were teenagers. These are men who are making their parents happy. Then they were doing what their teachers wanted. Then they were hard-working, long-suffering employees. And finally, they were the often thankless servants of their wives and children. As long as they've been conscious, they've been measuring themselves by other people's yardsticks.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, on one hand, it does kind of let potentially any of us who might be inclined to feel this way kind of lets us off the hook. And then, so my first defense mechanism to not believing my own headlines about myself is to be skeptical of anything that lets me off my own hook. It is really true. I mean, I put everybody else first in my family. When I had small businesses, I put every employee first. My paycheck was the last paycheck I wrote every month or whatever. I mean, you know how it is. And you're the provider, the protector, the fixer of the house, the big income, and you don't want to be selfish, and so you buy all the things for everybody else and get yourself last. And not that I didn't take care of myself, but I did. But you get the idea. Anyway, so let's keep going.
Falls seriously ill or passes away, or perhaps a person experiences their own first significant health scare. And it can happen that nothing at that point is standing between that person and death. Like, death used to be something very far away. Parents stood in the way, grandparents stood in the way. However, a person in middle age might find himself next on the chopping block, as it were, for the very first time. In any case, and this is when a person potentially realizes, wait a minute, I've spent my entire conscious life doing what other people wanted me to do, which was frankly my fault. And if I don't do anything, I'm going to spend the rest of my conscious life doing the exact same thing. I've just been doing what was expected. What about me? Like, my life is also for me. I want certain things. I want to live the way that I want to live. There are experiences that I want to have before I go, etc. And this selfishness, which has been suppressed for so long, just explodes onto the scene. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is the privilege and responsibility of every human being to live their own lives, which, if they also want to live among other human beings doing the exact same thing, requires a kind of creative selfishness, like a selfishness that can be creatively adapted to exist among others.
No, so next up, he's going to talk about a little bit of how it kind of goes wrong for a lot of guys. In my case, I think it went 100% right. In fact, all of my closest friends were, incredibly supportive. Nobody was like crass enough to say, geez, you should have done it a long time ago, or, what. And I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I wasted any time with my ex-wife, and I'm not saying, vilifying someone in your past is just, it's unproductive, and it's often not true, right? Everyone's just trying to live their own life, and people either get along or they don't, and that's the end of it. But he's going to talk a little bit about how, with the level of, you'll see what he says there, but it doesn't have to go that way. Obviously, it didn't for me. And on the channel, we talk about how it can go well for you here. So let's get back to our psychologist here.
But here's the thing. If a guy gets to be 45 years old before he is suddenly and urgently concerned about living life on his own terms, then he is going to be out of practice being selfish. And this is frankly why I think more men have midlife crises than women do. For better or for worse, women aren't out of practice. They ask, what about me, all the time. But for some men, the last time they allowed themselves to enact that selfishness was when they were 15 years old.
So that's his point there, that that's a true thing in psychology. If they'll, like, when people start heavy drug use at whatever age they were when they started heavy drug use, that's kind of emotionally where they were locked at. So you see a lot of rock stars that act like idiots. Well, if you got heavy into horse tranquilizers or whatever you got into when you were 17, and just because you're rich and successful, that's nice, and I'm happy for you, but you're emotionally still 17. And if your selfishness practice was last left off at age 15 or age 20 or whatever, my case maybe age 26 or something, you're going to be about 26. So maybe that's why I didn't go off and do 15-year-old stuff or something. But although maybe I'm kind of an immature person. My great mentor, I give him credit in the book, so his name is Dick. I'll just use the first name because that doesn't out anybody. But Dick is also one of the smartest people I've ever met and one of the most successful people that I know. So let's just start from that perspective. He's He's a very much a polished, very, very well-retired gentleman, okay? And anybody, he's got a great sense of humor. He's a lot of fun. So anyways, and he took me under his wing for more than a decade, which really helped me and made me an awful lot of money, and I'm thankful to him forever for that. But he one time he surprised me. We're having lunch one day, and he goes, yeah, I'm kind of an immature person. My personality is just immature. And he was like, I don't know, maybe 65 or late 60s when he said that or something. And it was maybe, I don't know, 7-8 years ago or something. And he probably said that. He often had a point when he was, well, always had a point when he was saying something, and that was probably for my benefit, because I'm definitely kind of a boyish, sort of person, and so I am living kind of that life. A lot of guys come here and do that too, and much more so than to the extent that I'm doing it. But yeah, heck, I don't know. Who cares? It makes me happy. There's a movie about this. It's kind of deep. It's not for everybody, but American Beauty. And the main character, I'm not going to get into what actor plays what parts and all that, and getting into all any political or social baggage of any actors. But the main actor that plays the main character in American Beauty, basically you think the movie's about one thing, and I love when movies do this, but it's actually about an entirely different thing. It's like Rocky is not about boxing. Rocky is about self-improvement and making something of yourself and all in life, and how hard life is. It's nothing to do with boxing. But and American Beauty is the same way. And it's really about a man who's, we always say midlife crisis, but I think with our advanced modern society, all these things happen at a later age now. But he was unhappy, and he goes back to a time when he was happy. He buys the Trans Am he always wanted, gets a job working at the local burger place. In absence of any knowledge of what he could do to be happy, he just went back to the last time he was happy. That's all he knew to do. It's a very simple concept in that case. For all of us who have or are looking at like relocating to Thailand, that's a bit more complex, but the general idea is exactly the same. And I'm just doing the stuff that makes me happy, and you should find the stuff that makes you happy. Obviously, for me, it's you can make anything kind of a positive. And my broken back that's been badly fused, and as the newer viewers may not be aware, the positive of it is that I've always got something to focus on. I do rehab every day, and but I like working out, and I love doing that stuff. So I'm doing all my exercise, and I'm still dreaming of when I can maybe do just some old man technical training Muay Thai. My days of sparring are done. Fawn was joking with me the other day and went to knee me in the butt, and I don't know how she did it, because she's 5'0", but somehow she kneed me in the base of my spine, not on my injury, but probably only 5 or 6 inches away. And my God, it was like I got struck by lightning. I couldn't believe how painful that was. So there will be no contact sparring of any kind, but I could do technical training, and definitely nobody hitting me in the back. I couldn't take a 10-year-old with a rock in his hand. I'd be done. So, but anyways, I dream about stuff like that, and just making some friends here, which can be challenging in the Isan region, has been well established on my channel and others. Maybe you do better in other areas, I don't know. On that point, real quick, my one friend, the retired Swiss gentleman, I just refer to him as, because he's extremely private. I'm meeting him for our Christmas dinner is this Saturday. So that's the timing of this when this video is made. And he lives in Pattaya about 40-50% of the time, just lives out of like a 4 or 5 star hotel and goes to fancy dinners with all his friends. He's got a bunch of friends who are all live extremely well. He's obviously wealthy. And he told me his budget one time, which I'm not going to share here, but he lives extremely well. And he's there because of his friends are there and stuff, but he says the social scene there is absolutely awful. That's a whole, I did a video on that, but just so, there is no, rainbow anywhere to go chasing. You've got to make your own little happy spot no matter where you go. But back on point with this, you just got to find everything here that's going to make work for you. You got to make this work for you, and a lot of guys just indulge in a lot of alcohol, and as long as you're not an alcoholic, as long as you're not making yourself physically ill and having social fallout, I guess that's okay. If you're like a big drinker, that's one thing. If you're an actual like alcoholic and can't stop, that's another thing, I suppose. But that's not for me to judge. A lot of guys that I know through Kurt Usani and through the schools that I associate with for language and such, those tend to be non-drink. Like I'm the big drinker. I'll have like one beer like almost any time I go somewhere, and I'm like the big drinker. I do find some pretty nice people that way. So you just get the birds of a feather thing, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, I thought the guy made some great points. I thought it was extremely interesting. And kind of, you know, and if someone throws that baggage at you, well, this is a midlife crisis, well, now you've got like I think a quiver full of arrows as to, well, how you can treat that however you want. You know, it takes any power out of that if someone's trying to hurt you or you know, take a swipe at you. You can, you know, keep it to yourself or share it if you feel like, you know. But there you go. Wouldn't he cool? I need to probably legally. I probably have to put a link to his video in the description, but I want to. I thought he was a nice guy, and I thought he was great at explaining things in lay terms that were really relevant to somebody. So maybe he's got other good stuff in there. I don't know. I'll have to check it out. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. The channel has just virtually exploded recently. And please check out my book. If you've watched the video this far, you might be a bit of a fan. Please check out my book. It's not available everywhere, but it's on Amazon. There'll be a link to the book in the description of my video here, and please take a look at it. Eventually, I'll narrate it and make it a book on audio. And right now, it's only on Amazon in the U.S. One of my regular subscribers or viewers said he can't get it in Amazon Australia, which is odd. You think a book is a book, especially if it's an ebook. You know, who cares? But ultimately, I may go to I want to go to like a third-party bookstore. I don't need a publisher. The book's done. I published it myself. I did the copyright on it and everything, so I'm done. I don't need any other help. I don't need any hand-holding for another. Boy, does everybody want to take a big fat share of your book when you put a book out, by the way? They're like, well, Rob, would you like just 10 cents a book? Would that be good? You know, it's like, are you kidding me? I can see where people get upset by this, by the way. I want to just find a cheap online bookstore or store of any kind. I don't care if it's a bookstore or not. And they can just sell it anywhere. Just on the web, you order it and they send you the file. You know, I don't want to do it myself because I don't want to sit there every day and go, I sold 3 books today, and I got to sit there for an hour and do the stuff and type in the information and make sure it went out. I've retired already, but I got to find some way to do this. And I prefer to actually sell the physical paperback. I did make the back cover today, and I sent it to my son. And anyway, so that's all that. But just thanks to everyone. This is great. It's awesome. Have a lot of fun. And I'll catch you soon. Appreciate it. My name is Rob, and thank you for supporting my YouTube channel. I meant every word I just said with respect.